Welcome back, guys, to Known Oceans Travel. I am here today to do another Explore video. I'm here today with my cousin Shane. Myself and Shane have actually traveled a fair bit. Our first holiday was when we were probably about 2 or 3 to the Jersey Islands. So
yeah,
we've been well accustomed to traveling. And yeah, we are here today to talk about our very, very spontaneous trip to Vegas. Shane, thank you so much for coming on with me today.
No problem at all. Absolutely no problem, Roma.
So I guess we should really start with how we actually ended up going to Vegas. It wasn't the original plan. Do you want to talk a little bit about why we ended up in Vegas?
It was a bit of a whirlwind. So basically, we were supposed to go to Canada, wasn't it? We had our visas got, the whole lot. We were in Philadelphia in the middle of probably the worst blizzard I think it was in 100 years. Was it something along those lines?
Something along those lines, yep.
And one day we were sitting down for dinner, and then we realized that our flights were cancelled. And so basically we had free flights with Spirit Airlines to go wherever we wanted in America. So I think we threw a dart at the map, or threw a finger onto the map, and we're like, we're going to Vegas. And then we just got this sheer excitement, like, oh, we're actually going to Vegas.
Yeah. So,
it was...
I actually don't think it sank in with us at the time, like.
Oh, it definitely didn't. Absolutely did not. But when we got there, it was such a transition at the time, because we went from, like, I think it was minus 17 degrees Celsius to like plus numbers basically, and above zero. So we were delighted. So it was great. Like,
it was actually such a comparison where we were like wearing Under Armour, we were wearing thermals, jackets, scarves, hats, everything.
As many layers as you can imagine.
Yeah, and then not having clothes for Vegas because we didn't bring any warm clothes.
Yeah. Wearing a North Face jacket walking down the boulevard in North Vegas, in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we did stand out like a sore thumb, definitely.
Sure.
So we headed out. We kind of booked whatever flights we could afford with the credit that Spirit Airlines had given us. Because we were refunded the flight because of the blizzard, we were trying to use up the right amount of money, and we ended up getting a very, very late flight out of Philadelphia Airport to Vegas.
Yeah.
But the problem with this was, because it was so cold, we were stuck on the runway taxiing for hours because of the wait to get the plane de-iced. So we were on the plane for a lot longer than we were supposed to be. And that kind of, we counted that day as a day on our like Vegas trip, but it really ended up not being. We got there at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So
it was hectic.
It was very hectic trying to get Ubers back to
in the middle of the night.
The other thing was, which we didn't plan, and this kind of hindered our trip just a little bit, was that there is the technology annual like convention that happens in Vegas.
CES. I remember that. Oh my god.
Yes, every single January for those few days. This meant that all the hotels were booked up, so we had a fight to find a hotel, and we ended up staying on the outskirts. It wasn't that expensive. Again, the price is going to be in the overview, but I will also give a better option, because where we stayed, we ended up spending so much money on Ubers going in and out of Vegas from when we stayed. It was kind of like a motel kind of. But at that stage, we were going to take whatever we got.
Anything with a bed that's parallel to the ground.
Anything with a bed. So obviously when we went in the beginning of 2018, and I was actually not 21. So that meant that for most people would go, that means you couldn't do anything. But I don't think that trip had any spare time, because we had it jam-packed with the amount of stuff that we did. Yeah, I don't know, Shay, if you want to talk about the activities that we got up to while we were there.
Yeah, basically, I can't remember extremely well. The first day we got there, I remember we did wasn't it a bus tour around the place? And we basically went
hop off bus tour, guys.
Hop on, hop off. It was the handiest thing ever. I actually ripped my new North Face jacket on the speakers on the side of the bus, but we won't go into that detail. But I remember we went around to basically the main sites you could see in Las Vegas, and we did that during the day and at night, so we got kind of both views of it. I remember if we did it on the same day or not.
Yeah.
But that's all I can remember from the first day. Doing a lot of hop on, hop off, and then in the evening going to see the waterfall. What's that waterfall called? Not the waterfall, the
Bellagio,
fountains. The Bellagio
fountains. Yeah.
Every evening we made it our mission just to go down and watch them. Best thing ever.
Stand there for hours. It was insane. Yeah, the other thing we should mention that we did not discover until the day that we got there, it was the heaviest rainfall that Las Vegas had seen since 2013.
Remember that?
It was so ridiculously wet to be sitting on an open top bus, but we did it because at that stage we weren't freezing, so it didn't matter. Thankfully the rest of the trip was actually quite warm, even though it was warm with the rain. But the second day then we were kind of making use of the fact that we were that far out west, because neither of us, we've been to America twice together, but neither of us had ever actually been to been any further west than Philadelphia and New York. So we decided we were going to try and make our way out to the Grand Canyon, and we realized how far away it was. So we didn't actually get out we didn't get as far as the Grand Canyon, but we found a trip from Vegas that would bring us to the Hoover Dam, and it was roughly half a day, and that gets you to the border of Arizona and Nevada. So that was cool. We were changing time zones. It was a private bus transfer. It wasn't too expensive for the three of us, because there was a third person with us that trip. And it was a great way to kind of get out of Vegas and see what was around it, even though it is just desert.
It was change of scenery from looking at buildings the whole time.
Exactly. And the thing about Vegas as well is that there's like a new part of Vegas and then the old part of Vegas. So you get two very, very different types. You know, New Vegas is very like MGM Grand, Conor McGregor, like
lights everywhere,
lights, Caesar's Palace, very hangover.
Yeah.
And then you've got the old Vegas, which I'm not gonna lie, personally, I absolutely hated and could not wait to get out of it.
Grubby kind of or something. I just can't remember it really well. It was extremely grubby.
We saw a lot of homeless people, and one in particular that had died, and they were waiting for an ambulance to come.
Completely forgot that.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I did not.
How much that happened in that trip.
Yeah, that trip was jam-packed, but we did a lot of it was just wandering around and taking a look at some of the casinos, and the airport is like smack bang in the middle of the city. Like you can walk from the airport to your hotel. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
it's a bizarre place. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, but
I loved it.
100% would definitely go back. You don't have to be 21 to visit Vegas. You definitely really don't. I think it's definitely a myth that people say because of the gambling laws and the drinking laws. There's a lot to do there, and a lot to like that you don't end up spending money on. A lot of it is walking around, and they've got some of the coolest shops. The Coca-Cola shop, I don't know if you remember that, Shane.
And the M&M's, was there an M&M shop as well, or that the same shop?
And the M&M store was like 3 stories high. It was incredible, and it's definitely worth going because there is so much to see that you're not spending like hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a ticket for something, and it kind of gets that premise a lot. But going as students, because we were in college, we were both like on our Christmas break from college, it was definitely worth visiting. Food and drink, we probably spent the most money on that trip, probably on food and drink.
It was expensive.
We ate in some nice places, but there's not really an option to not eat in nice places, if that makes sense.
It's all the same thing,
it was quiet there, and again our evenings were spent at the Bellagio fountain. The second night we were there, the CES had the first Intel drone show, and we just kind of stumbled upon it, and it was definitely a sight to see. It was coordinated with the fountain, and there's videos up online. We'll try and stick one over this, but definitely 10 out of 10 from me. Shane, I don't know about you, what would you say?
I'd say overall, our whole trip, I remember we were in Philadelphia, the whole lot, New York, but I think Las Vegas was probably one of the highlights of the whole trip. It was just everything you imagine it to be, but then you multiply that by 10, and that's Las Vegas. And maybe multiply that by 10 again, and that's probably Las Vegas. Like, everything is just so over the top, but it's brilliant. Like, even if you're not into that sort of thing, if you're only there for a few days, you'll definitely love it. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing I will say about hotels, they're not as expensive as you'd think. The big hotels like Caesar's Palace, MGM Grand, they're not ridiculous. The one thing I will say, there isn't hostels. It's not that kind of city. But the hotel rooms aren't that expensive in comparison to Ireland. Most of the hotels in America wouldn't really, a lot of the hotels wouldn't really be as expensive as Irish hotels. That's one thing I think people don't realize, is how expensive Irish hotels are. Las Vegas is probably along the same. You are going to spend money on accommodation there, but if there's a few of you going, which there was for us, we didn't spend that much. I am 100% going to bring up the night that we tried to hop into the hotel bed from a like viral video, and
it was a Vine, I think, back then, was it?
Broke
a
it?
Vine or a YouTube, yeah. I don't think they found out though, so we'll keep it that way.
We'll keep it that way, definitely. It was probably one of the funniest moments of that trip. Definitely.
Something so simple made the trip so funny. It was hilarious.
It was so stupid. We'll put in a video of how you're supposed to do it and our attempt.
Yeah, good.
It didn't
yeah, because it was a big fail.
Give me your attention, baby.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And then we flew straight back to Philadelphia from Vegas, because that's where we will talk about it. That's where our auntie is. So from Ireland, there are a lot of flights to Vegas. Most of the time you do a layover at some part. Most people have done it for a McGregor fight. You know, the Irish Army does tend to go over for McGregor fights. So there are flights to Vegas. But if you are doing a trip to America and you are putting together an itinerary to visit a few places, I would 100% recommend Vegas, even if you're a student. There's so much to do.
At one stage in life, at least, just do Vegas.
100%.
When you're young.
So, I'd say 100% better when you're young.
Yeah.
So guys, we are going to be back with a second video for our trip to New York, which we actually did 2 of, so it'll be a little bit longer. But Shane, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about our trip to Vegas.
No problem. It was a joy. Thanks a million, Roma.
Thanks.